To fans, Melissa Sue Anderson was Mary Ingalls. She was the strong one on Little House on the Prairie. She was graceful, smart, and always stayed calm. But while the cameras showed happy prairie life and family values, something much heavier was happening behind the scenes of one unforgettable episode in 1974. It was raw, it was personal, and it left a mark so deep that Anderson has refused to ever watch it again. What happened on that set? And why does that moment still bother her decades later? Get ready for this interesting story, how Melissa Sue Anderson started. When Melissa Sue Anderson first walked onto the set of Little House on the Prairie, she was just 11 years old. She was a quiet but determined girl with bright blue eyes and a calm way about her that seemed older than her years. Born on September 26, 1962, in Berkeley, California, Melissa didn't come from a family of Hollywood stars. But what she didn't have in connections, she made up for with pure talent, hard work, and a natural grace that made her stand out from other young actors of her time. Before Little House, Melissa had already gotten a few roles in commercials and TV shows, but nothing quite like this. The moment she got cast as Mary Ingalls, the oldest daughter in the infamous Frontier family, her life was never the same. From the very first season, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that made her character feel real. On screen, Mary was reliable, gentle, and strong. Off-screen, Melissa was getting used to sudden fame, long days of filming, and the crazy rhythm of growing up on camera. At first, the set of Little House felt magical. It felt like being part of a real family. Michael Landon, who played her father Charles Ingalls and also worked as producer and writer, became a major guide in her career. Cast and crew said the environment was warm and supportive, even when filming under the hot California sun or dealing with the stress of a tight production schedule. For a young girl, it was a dream come true. She was working with beloved actors, telling wholesome stories, and becoming a household name in living rooms across America, and the show was a hit. Fans loved the Ingalls family. They watched weekly, not just for prairie adventures, but for heart. There was something deeply comforting about the show's simplicity, the love between family members, the faith in small-town values, and the strength in the face of hardship. For Melissa, it felt like she was part of something meaningful. The storylines were often gentle, full of lessons and deep meaning. Even the challenges her character faced early on were based in tenderness, with the sibling relationships, school struggles, and quiet moments of growing up. But then, things began to change. It was during one early episode, long before the worst had even begun, that Melissa Sue Anderson went through something so intense, so personally upsetting, that she never forgot it. It wasn't violent or graphic. In fact, it was subtle, emotional, and quietly heartbreaking. But it stayed with her, and to this day, that one particular episode from 1974 remains locked away in her memory. It was one she refused to watch again. What happened in that episode? And why does Melissa still avoid it all these years later? The answer lies in a heartbreaking story that changed how she saw the role, and maybe even herself. Let's dig in. The unforgettable episode. Melissa Sue Anderson was just a child when she joined one of the most beloved television families in American history. Cast as Mary Ingalls in Little House on the Prairie, she quickly became a fan favorite. With her calm way of acting, soft voice, and thoughtful eyes, Anderson brought a gentle strength to her role that made audiences connect deeply with Mary. But what the viewers didn't see was the emotional toll that some of these storylines had on the young actress behind the scenes. One episode in particular, filmed in 1974, affected her so deeply that, even decades later, she still refuses to watch it, though it focused more on Melissa Gilbert's character, Laura Ingalls, than on Mary. The episode was emotionally heavy for the entire cast. The story revolves around Laura's jealousy after her mother gives birth to a baby boy. Charles Jr., the family, is thrilled at the arrival of the new baby. But Laura struggles to deal with the sudden shift in attention. She becomes consumed with guilt after she wishes her brother gone, and then he actually suddenly gets sick and dies. Laura is devastated, believing her selfish thoughts caused his death. She runs away into the mountains, where she meets a mysterious man who helps guide her toward forgiveness and healing. This episode stands out for several reasons. First, it was one of the earliest times in the series where themes of death, grief, and inner emotional pain were explored in such depth. For many viewers, it was a turning point. The show was no longer just a sweet period drama about farm life. It was willing to touch darker emotional corners of human experience. For Melissa Sue Anderson, even though Mary wasn't the main character in this particular episode, being on set and surrounded by the emotional intensity of the scenes had a lasting impact. Children in Hollywood often face unique pressures. They're expected to deliver adult-level performances while still developing emotionally themselves. Anderson was no exception. She later described the environment on set as professional and warm, especially in the early seasons, but also acknowledged the emotional weight of certain storylines. What made The Lord Is My Shepherd particularly hard was how real the grief felt. Losing a child is a horrible concept, even when it's fictional. Watching her younger co-stars act out such raw grief, and being surrounded by actors crying and mourning for a baby that never truly existed, blurred the lines between performance and genuine emotion. Sources close to the show, along with her own thoughts on the emotional toll of early episodes, suggest that this was the beginning of a pattern. It was the first time she saw how deeply the show would mine tragedy for emotional weight as the seasons went on. Mary's storylines grew even more tragic. In Season 4, Mary goes blind after getting scarlet fever. For Anderson, it was a challenging shift. No longer just the big sister or voice of reason in the family, Mary became the center of some of the series' darkest story arcs. From adjusting to life as a blind teenager to becoming a teacher at a school for the blind, Anderson had to show resilience, frustration, sadness, and growth. All these while still being a teenager herself, but you will be stunned to know that's the least of it all. One of the most devastating moments in the entire series happened when Mary and her husband Adam lose their newborn child in a fire in Season 6. The scenes were heartbreaking to watch, and even more heartbreaking to film. Anderson has since spoken out about the emotional toll this